cell phone. I want to welcome everyone to the February 3rd, 2020 regular meeting of the Abingdon Town Council. Thank you all for attending. We appreciate your participation in the town government. Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bradley.
Here.
Ms. Quetch.
Here.
Mr. Webb.
Here.
Ms. Patterson.
Here.
Mayor Craig.
Here. Mr. Webb will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is public comments. When I call your name, if you'll come forward and state your name and address, and please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. The first speaker is Don McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the council. I am not here to complain or ask for anything.
Good.
Just want to let you know right off the bat.
Sure.
My wife and I have been for the past 10 years or so looking for the place that we wanted to call home for like the last quarter, or hopefully third of our life. And we decided on Abingdon. So we just bought the house at 255 Valley Street Northwest, which used to be pink, but it's not anymore. Understand, it used to be the Hagee's house, back when they had the wagons. And what I wanted to do, we wanted to come to a meeting, but I wanted to come up and thank you all for creating, maintaining an incredible community. We love this town. Sorry, I don't have an accent yet, but I'm on the radio, so I have to keep this one.
I just said to him, he's got a great radio voice.
I've been a radio guy for like
I was
35
like-
years, so I do a talk show in Seattle, which I'm gonna do once in a while from Abingdon. We're not full-fledged citizens yet, because we have a house in Florida that we have to eventually sell. We'll get around to that. But we do spend as much time up here as we can. We love it up here. We love your town. We love the people. We love the theater. We love the community. We love the restaurants. We love the activities. I'm just amazed at all the things you guys have done. And I want to thank you and ask you to hopefully keep it up.
Thank
very
you,
much.
and welcome to Abingdon.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
a hokey.
She's a Hokie. Go Hokies.
I love hearing from a fellow radio guy. Okay, I used to be a radio guy, but I got
Oh,
over it.
is this the voice from the other room?
Hell, you
Well,
were
where
a
are you
radio
talking?
guy?
Was it you?
Yes.
Oh,
Long
so
ago.
it sounds like it's coming from somewhere else.
Yes.
You're a radio
I
guy.
used to be, but I got over it.
Yeah. I'm still, so, thank you all.
The next speaker is Anita Manuel.
So I'm not a radio guy, and I've been here a little bit longer. So this morning, I was talking to a longtime resident. She's been here all her life, and she told me about the January when they only had 2 days of school because there was so much snow. And she misses it, okay? So a couple of months ago, I was listening to an Emory and Henry professor, and he said we can expect another 10 degrees average temperature rise in the next few years. And I'm saying another 10 degrees from what we have now, and that this is a lot of change. 2 days of school to almost no freezing at all in January. And what I'm asking is, are we ready? I came here from Seattle also about 5 years ago. And right after I left Seattle, the temperatures went up a lot. And this isn't a town that doesn't have air conditioning for the most part. And also, there were fires up in the hills. And so for the entire month of August, the town itself, Seattle, the city, was filled with smoke. This is what my friends were telling me who were still there. And I also saw it on the video. So I'm saying, in a sense, I actually have become a climate refugee. So when Florence rolled in, and Florence did a lot of damage, it was really dramatic, and it wasn't that far away. So I sat up here and I watched and I said, there are going to be more climate refugees, and some are going to be headed our way. And how can we turn this into an opportunity and a welcoming one, and a regenerative one, and a healthy one? So before I decided to come here, I checked Abingdon out online. Great place to retire, access to outdoor recreation, clean food with a natural market, farmer's market, cultural activities, a great base to build on. So how do we figure out ways that include everybody, old-timers, middle-timers, newcomers, making new connections? So I noticed that on the agenda tonight, I saw a discussion of whether our town manager should be on the board of the community center. I think that's a great connection. I love to hear that. I worked for the community center for a while. That's when Natalie Graham had taken over. And we talked together all about how to find new directions. And there's a school in there. I know a couple of the kids from that school. And the school is exploring new ways to take care of what we have and learning about what it takes to be a leader in adapting to new conditions, working together. So there are more connections to be made in town and across our bioregion, and some needs for town ordinances to be adapted, and maybe zoning to be adapted to these new ways of doing things, to make room for new kinds of projects that will contribute to making this a more living, ecologically sound, regenerative place, so we can be a leader in a new kind of renewal. Just the big picture I talked about last time, just thinking about that big regenerative picture.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our public comments. We're going to dispense with the reading of the minutes until the next meeting with the council's approval.
Fine.
Any objection? All right. No proclamations, no resolutions. Item H, petitions, public hearings, and first reading of ordinances. First reading of the proposed amendment to the Town of Abingdon Code Part 2, Code Chapter 2, Administration Division 4. Mr. Morani.
Yes, Mayor, what, this was discussed at the last work session. We're essentially clarifying this in regards to the second reading and putting a threshold in there that it must be an emergency, and then really the current code is silent on that. So this establishes that threshold. It also provides that the ordinance that was enacted could become effective immediately after a second reading is passed, or as how the ordinance is drafted. If it's a fine or a penalty, we might determine that there's a 10-day waiting period. I believe there's some statutory language on that. So that's really what we're doing with this. It's just a parliamentary change. But nothing really will drastically be affected.
And as we talked about last time, past councils had treated the current ordinance as allowing the waiver of second reading anyway. We just thought it should be clarified a little bit more to say that if 4 members of the council dispense with it, then it can be dispensed with. So.
Okay, council, we discussed this at a work session. Shall the proposal be rejected? Any comments?
I just want to comment, just my little comment, that it's more stringent, and I appreciate Mr. Bell looking into this and clarifying that and getting us up to speed on this.
Haven't we been rehearsing this for about 6 months?
I don't think it's been quite that long now. All right.
The mayor's got the thing he's supposed to say down now, so I want to do it.
He did.
Did an excellent job this time, thank you.
Still doesn't make any
No
sense.
hesitation.
Okay, first reading, proposed amendment to section 2-129 Fire Department. Mr. Brown.
This next one is in regard to the procurement. We're just changing,
Fire department.
oh, fire department, I'm sorry. Oh, my bad. This one is, as we discussed the last meeting, in regards to the change to be consistent with the charter amendment, which essentially puts the authority of the hiring of fire officials under the authority of the town manager.
And it makes it consistent with that proposed charter.
Yeah.
Amendment. Okay, council, shall the proposal be rejected? Moving right along. First reading, proposed amendment to Town of Abingdon Code, Part 2, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Procurement. Mr. Moran.
Yeah, this one is in regards to the procurement. This is essentially just changing the existing language with verbiage that states that will comply with the Virginia Public Procurement Act as we discussed at the work session on the 22nd.
Okay. Council, shall the proposal be rejected? No comment. Moving right along. First reading of proposed amendment to the Town of Abingdon Code, Part 2, Code, Chapter 74, Utilities, Article 2, Sewers and Sewage Disposal. Mr. Moran.
Yes, we discovered, we discussed two policy changes to this section in two different agenda items at the last meeting. One involved the replacement of facilities manager in various places in that administration section of the code to town manager or designee. And we did that, as well as a second item we talked about was allowing the town to prevent any new application for sewer service in the event that the town had information that it was at capacity or a certain section of the system were at capacity. Our goal is to combine them into a single ordinance amending that section, since it's all contained in the same section. We did go over each individual section at the last work session. There were some the draft form that you have, we passed out the red lines that were discussed at the last work session. Some of the ones after section 28 were omitted from this version, but everything will be on the second, for the second reading, the final draft, and they were as presented at the work session. So, anybody has any questions about that, let me know.
Any questions,
Okay.
council? Okay, shall the proposal be rejected? Good. Next item on the agenda, second readings, done. Consideration of bids, done. Reports from the town manager and staff. Presentation of quarterly financial report and revenue projection, Chuck Banner.
Member Craig, members of council, I've never worked in radio. I was once told I had a face that was made for radio. And that was my friend, but, so there you go. Tonight I'm going to kind of give you the first half highlights of where we're at on a financial report as of December 31st. I've passed those out. I apologize for not getting it put together, but it took us some time to kind of get to where we was wanting to go. And I still just say there'll be some refining to do as to what we'll see in the future. But starting off, I would like to point out that general fund revenues, well, at first glance, they may appear like they're that show that we've still got below 65% left to collect. That's kind of misleading for the simple fact that we do have that $7.6 million associated with the Nevis, the field, recreation fields projects that we're not going to be using all those funds, so it's still kind of looking like we have that to collect, but we actually don't. But there's there's that, the sports complex, and it's not gonna be fully required for this year's budget. Some of the revenue highlights to kind of hit on for the first half, meals and lodging taxes are ahead of projections by a little over 3.67%. Local sales tax is currently ahead of projections by 2.27%. So, real property tax, we're slightly behind projections, but only by 0.8% as for what was collected back for period in December, through December. Personal property, we currently have collected 98.35% of what was budgeted. That still leaves a little bit left to go because, of course, we only collect personal property one time a year, and that's in November, so we've got some work to do on that. Charges for services on Park and Rec side is slightly behind projections by almost 1%, but not quite 1%, but it's a little bit behind the projections. The one charges for sanitation and waste is we're behind in projections by 2.47% on that, so we're a little bit behind on that. Non-categorical aid, which consists of funding that we get from the county and from the Commonwealth, is behind projections by 7.88%. Some of this is related to VDOT projects that didn't necessarily get funded. We don't get the funding, we don't have the expenditure. So it kind of works itself out. On the expenditure side, salaries right at 50.82% remaining, health insurance 50.36% of budget remaining. Part-time wages, we've got a little bit over the first half on that, 0.8%. But, you know, we've still got, we can probably put that in check in the next 6 months. VRS retirement, we got 51.73% of budget remaining. Capital outlay has 86.71%, but what you gotta understand about that is, like I said, on the Meadows project, that's included, that's on, the revenues are short, so that expenditure, we won't be making that much anyhow. It's not gonna be fully required by this fiscal year end. Debt service, we have 83.63% budget remaining, and I thought I need to know what that equates to, is $546,000 that we'll have to pay in debt service between now and the end of June. Total overall budget for revenues to expenditures for the general fund has a $273,835 in excess of revenues to expenditures. So we're a little bit ahead on that. Some factors that you need to keep in mind as we go into we start the new year, we go into the last half of the fiscal year, is that business licenses, they'll be due March 1st, and we've got those budgeted at $945,000. So we will be, we'll have to see how that collection works out. I know you're aware of the closings of some of the restaurants and the hotel that's associated with the VDOT project on exit 17. We'll need to kind of keep an eye on that to make sure that how it's impacting meals and lodging. But on the flip side of that, we do have some new restaurants and we'll have a new hotel open in the future at the Meadows that hopefully will offset some of what we may have lost in the other closings. The other fund, the sewer fund, a little less glamorous, but nonetheless, the revenues is currently tracking 1.27% ahead of projections at the mid-year point, but expenses are 2.83 ahead of their projections. So we're spending a little bit more on the sewer fund side. Kind of leaves us a deficit on the sewer fund side of expenses to revenues of roughly $54,000. Some of the things to keep in mind: charges for services, it's behind projections by 0.2%. So we're pretty close on that. Non-budgeted revenues ahead of projections by 25.34%. Full-time salaries, we've got 48.55% budget remaining, so looks like we could be a little bit short on that. Depending on, I know we've had some employees come and go, so it might work itself out. Health insurance, we have 51.32% budget remaining. Retirement, 50%, 0.55. Capital outlay only has 17.34% of the budget remaining. I know they had some projects in the fall that they've had to get done that has ate up a lot of their capital outlay expenditures. Debt service on the sewer fund side, we still got 50% left to pay. That equates to $375,000 of debt service payments we've got to meet on the sewer fund side in the next 6 months. I know it's a lot of information in a short period of time, but the data behind it is attached to your all's reports. If you take a look at it and you have any questions after reviewing it, don't hesitate to contact me. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Well, Chuck, I'd like to say I thank you for this report. I hope this'll, since I've been on council, we haven't had a report like this. And has there ever been reports given to council?
This is the first one I've given them this much detail, I'll put it that way.
Well, I'd like for it to become a standard so that we
I
can
think
share it with the
quarterly.
citizens quarterly, yeah.
That's a good idea.
And
Good idea.
And we'll work on it. It's a work in progress, and I agree we need to do some formatting.
Telling us what you told us is really beneficial for me personally, because I can't, from the data
A
on
lot of
the,
that.
I can't tell whether we're behind or ahead on revenue and expenses, so having you
Yeah, it
analyze
gives
it and
us a
tell us is
snapshot.
very helpful.
Thank you, Chad.
And it sure would be nice to have those with the agenda.
Yeah,
me
we
and
need-
Donna,
So we can see it
were
ahead of
down to the
time?
last minute trying to
Well,
figure
now, I
out
thought I was
exactly-
gonna get a draft, and I didn't until 30 minutes before the meeting, but we'll get better at this.
So we've been trying to lock that down for a
Yeah.
while.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks, Chuck. Okay, the next item is a possible appointment of town representative to the Board of Community Center of Abingdon, Jimmy Moran.
Thank you, Mayor. Despite popular belief, I'm not asking to appoint myself to the community center. It was listed under town manager as an item I was going to bring up, but that's okay.
anyway.
It wouldn't pass anyways. I had a meeting with Ernie Daniels, the executive director, last week about a couple different things, and this item came up. I mentioned it to the mayor, and he suggested that we just discuss it at an upcoming meeting. So I just wanted to throw it out there for discussion purposes. At some point, I can follow up with Ernie and ask him. I don't necessarily know if it's essential that we do it now, considering that we're going through the non-departmental process, and maybe we get through that first before we appoint like a council member to that board. But just, I guess we wanted to see if everybody was open to doing something like that. So I'll let the mayor add anything to that if you want.
Well, I think it would be a good idea for us to have somebody on the community center board.
Well, I'll volunteer.
Oh, we got a volunteer, wow. The reason is that it's hard to monitor non-departmental expenses without a town representative on the board, and the county has appointed a representative, so I think we should have a council member on the community center board. Kind of think maybe before we make an appointment, we should, well, I don't know, Donna's volunteered,
Well, I mean, we can wait. I just wanna throw that out there.
but we might want to think about, since it's so close to the end of the year, that we might want to wait and do all those appointments together so we even out the workload among council members. But that's just an idea.
Yeah, that's not bad.
We can go either way, whatever the council wants to do.
I mean, if you guys are comfortable with it, I'd make a motion to appoint Donna.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay. Motion by Mr. Webb to appoint Donna Which to the community center board. Second by Mr. Bradley. Any discussion?
Congratulations.
Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
Mayor Cook?
Aye. Donna, you are the representative on the community center.
Sorry, Paul. Or is that a good thing?
Okay, council. Next item is old business and matters not on the
Oh,
agenda.
Mayor, I have one more thing I was gonna bring up under,
Well, your time's passed, man.
am I out of order?
Yeah,
Am I out of
you're
order? I was just gonna make a quick comment
Go
about
ahead,
the
go ahead. I'm just
non-departmentals.
kidding.
That's okay. We received probably close to the same we had last year, maybe a few less. We did have a revamped application this year, so we've asked for a lot more detailed information, background about the organization, audited financial statements. So what we're doing is, we had this discussion at the Finance Committee meeting last month, and, you know, my recommendation was for staff for me to put a review committee together made up of staff members so we could look through this and try to objectively rate some of these applications based on the criteria that not only we have in what's been given to us in the statute, but also things that we've included in the application, like economic impact, what they're doing in the community, and also we've put in questions there about what's the impact of funding if it were to not occur. So those are all things that will weigh, and we will then eventually bring it back with some recommendations. So we're trying to streamline a little bit, at least at the council level, so we don't have to go through, you know, page by page every single application. We can try to do some of that at the staff level. We'll still have that meeting in March. I can't remember, it's March 22nd, 26th. We'll still have that meeting where we'll invite the representatives of the organizations to make a presentation, but by then, at least you'll be able to have some input, some feedback from staff. So.
Okay. We appreciate the work you guys are doing. The budget committee and what you're doing is going to be really helpful, I think, in bringing our budget together. That's the non-departmental expenses is really hard for the council
Yeah.
to.
And Chuck and I will be having meetings with all the department heads probably over the next 2.5 weeks. So if anybody wants to see me, better make an appointment with you. Because my calendar is going to be booked. So
I don't know of anybody that wants to see you.
Well, you can just come in and barge in anytime you want to, I guess.
Do you have a projection as to when we're gonna get the non-departmental, information?
Oh, we'll probably have it at least a week before that 26th meeting. Well, I'm trying to remember, when is our finance committee meeting? We'll probably send it out before that finance committee meeting, so it'll be sometime before the 19th, probably a few days before that. So we'll send it out to all the council members. It just won't go to the finance committee, but we were just gonna discuss it at the finance committee. But we'll have all that information back to you guys at least a week before it gets to the full council for that work session. Or
Anything
special.
else, Jimmy?
I don't think so. I don't think we have anything.
Well, think about it, because we're moving on.
You move on.
All right. Council member reports.
Back to old business, if I could, I didn't get to comment on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Recycle update, I'm real passionate about the recycling. I really want to get recycling back on its feet here in Abingdon. It looks like that I've been in contact with Carol Doss with the Upper Tennessee Roundtable, and we're trying, she's getting a regional meeting together, and there's several people that will be there, and I'll be along at that meeting as well. So, I don't know when that is, probably in February sometime, late February. I don't have the real projection, but I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully we can work out something, as well as the county. I hope they partake in this, and other cities around us, other towns, around us. I hope they will. It's a good thing. I need to be responsible.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for your work in that area. Okay, council member reports. Al, you want to say anything?
We had a meeting of the planning commission just last week, and they undertook to think about to begin to commence to deal with vehicles parked as advertisements in various places, trucks and things that have signs painted on the side of them, parked in the lots in lieu of a sign. So we're going to have a figure out a way to deal with that. And, let's see, I think we got something on the comprehensive plan coming up at the next meeting, well, this coming February meeting.
I'm glad you all are dealing with it. I see quite a bit of that. Thank you, Al. Donna?
I've been busy,
I know you've been busy with the budget.
but I enjoy serving.
Cindy?
Well, it has been busy. I attended my meetings, the Tree Commission being one of them. Martin Luther King Parade, went to that ceremony and went and walked the parade, and there was a great attendance this year. I was very impressed. I've been there 4 years in a row. Business Challenge, they had, the Business Challenge kickoff over, it's the Washington County, Business Challenge over at the, incubator. Washington County Chambers of Commerce sponsors that. They have over $30,000 in business investment awards, and I was quite taken back by how many, business startups are there and people that are already in business. I was real happy to see them participate. In the Tree Commission, I wanted to report a few things. We are going to be, well, I'm not going to be, but the Tree Commission, our Kevin Sigmund's our chairman. He works for Appalachia Power. He's our tree arborist. He has found that Bradford pears are an invasive tree, and we're going to be taking some of those off the public right-of-ways. So just be aware of that. Some's on Main Street, right across from Presbyterian Church. So we'll be removing those. Also, I hated to see our big old oak tree fall down over at the visitor center. That was a terrible tragedy to me. But during the storm, we lost that. It was over 100 years old. Some say 300, but that was a terrible loss. I've discovered that I have a red mulberry tree on my property that is the 6th largest in the state of Virginia. And so I'm real happy to report that I have a tree that is a red mulberry tree, and I'm a tree hugger, so I love trees. But anyway, I've been real busy, and I enjoy my job, and I guess it's appropriate to say that I'm running for re-election, and I hope everybody will support me. I support you all, so I hope you'll support me. I love my job.
Thank you, Cindy. Derek, you have anything to report?
It's been a busy month, I have to say, at the pharmacy and with council. Everybody wash your hands and stay away from the flu. It's very, very bad right now. But we attended some very interesting meetings. I've enjoyed my work with the finance committee. That's been a lot of fun so far. I like numbers, and that's kind of my thing. We continue to have monthly meetings right now for the Rec Advisory Commission pertaining to the sports complex and the progress there, and we're looking forward to hearing some details here in the next couple of weeks. We've got some deadlines coming up and hope to have more information soon. And getting ready to go to Richmond with, I believe, Cindy and Jimmy, so we're looking forward to the legislative functions in Richmond later this week. So.
We're gonna try to slip a casino in at the last minute for Abingdon.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm joking. Just a joke.
That would be controversial.
It's better than what they said at the Frolics.
The only thing I have to report is that I'm on the District 3 board, and our executive director resigned. That's, for those of you all that don't know, District 3 is our bus service and our senior citizens programs throughout the region. Mr. Richardson resigned for health reasons, and we wanted a temporary replacement. That was a big loss for us. He's served there for a long time, and he's been a very good executive director. So.
Very nice man. I hated to hear that he was leaving.
Okay, Mr. Bell sent us some late breaking news. You want to report on that, Cam, or you want to let somebody else report on that?
I think we all should do it in unison.
The town is defending two separate lawsuits in federal court, one by the former town manager and one by the former town attorney. Judge Jones issued an opinion and order in those cases ruling on the town's and Ms. Patterson's motion to dismiss in the Eisenhower case, respectively, and dismissed all counts of Ms. Eisenhower's complaint with leave to amend if the plaintiff so moves, and in Mr. Kelly's case, dismissed all counts but for a breach of contract claim, also with leave to amend. So we will see what the plaintiffs do in response to this opinion and order, but it was mostly what we had asked for in our pleadings. So we'll see what happens next.
I'm gonna give you a wonderful clap for that.
Thank Penn Stewart for a good job. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up? Or?
I think, Mr. Mayor, I think Derek Webb is the most accessible council member we have. He keeps office hours at Food City. Tell him when you work.
You can look it up online. All the time.
He just says he's in
Well,
doing council stuff and at the same time he multitasks.
I tried.
He's amazing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot
I
of us
think he
that do
needs to
that.
do more work and less talking myself. All right, council, we're adjourned.
Some prescription.